This is Podcasthon episode of the Conservation and Science podcast. What is Podcasthon, you ask? It's a global initiative where podcasters across the world dedicate one episode of their podcast to the charity of their choice. And all those episodes are being published in 1 week to create a wave of awareness of various causes. And I decided to do one better, and I am featuring not one, but two Irish environmental charities. And they are Irish Whales and Dolphin Group and Irish Wildlife Trust, alphabetical order. So I hope you will enjoy this episode. Links to both charities as well as to the Podcasthon website are in the description of this show. So go in there and donate or maybe become a member of one or both of those charities. And don't forget to check other Podcasthon episodes that are being published this week. All right. IWDG, Irish Whales and Dolphin Group. Pádraig Whooley, welcome back to the show. You are our guest in episode 87, and it's a pleasure now to welcome you back to the show for this Podcasthon episode.
It's a pleasure. I got an email yesterday from our CEO, Simon Barrow, and who wasn't at he missed the AIMS conference in Galway where I met you last. And Simon said, you've done stuff with this guy before. You kind of liked him, didn't you?
Excellent. No, it's a pleasure. And it was a pleasure to meet you at the conference and have you here again. Listen, this episode, it's a special episode where I'm showcasing Irish environmental charities, and Irish Whales and Dolphin Group is one of the biggest and one of my favorite Irish environmental charities. Please tell us everything that we need to know about Irish Whale and Dolphin Group.
Well, firstly, I'd have to clarify. We're certainly not one of the biggest. I would say we're nothing like one of the busiest. We might be one of the busiest, but we're certainly we kind of always, I think, punch a little bit beyond our weight category. People often assume that the Irish Whale and Dolphin Group is a very large NGO with a staff of dozens, and we're just bloody busy, and you could argue, and in fact I do increasingly argue, that we're too busy, and that to the point where almost the fun can be going out of it. You know, these are not high-powered, well-paid jobs we're in, and sometimes I think the most important word is no. But Tommy, when I was asked if I'd have a chat with you, I couldn't help myself. But the Irish Whale and Dolphin Group, just to go back to the start, I mean, we're established in 1990, and kind of the linchpin or the kingpin to the whole thing was really Simon Barrow. And believe it or not, 35 years later, Simon is still very much sort of a central character in the Irish Whale and Dolphin Group. Don't know where he gets his energy from. But yeah, no, listen, we have grown considerably from then. I mean, up to about, 7 or 8 years ago, we didn't have, we probably didn't have a single paid officer in the group. That's kind of changed now. We do have roles that, we advertise. And so with that, I'm talking about marine policy officers, science officers, and the group, our remit is getting wider and it's getting bigger. We're more involved now in areas that we historically kind of didn't really get involved in. I'm thinking in particular of the whole issue of live strandings. Is one. Now my role in the group has always been sightings, so I deal with things that are alive and free swimming in the ocean, and then that's a subset of all those living animals is a percentage of the population that are dead and dying. So we have a stranding officer, Stephanie Levesque, and Stephanie handles dead and dying things on beaches. Or should I say dead things on beaches? Because now we're going into more the welfare side of things, where we're looking at whales and dolphins and porpoises that are still alive when they strand. So it's not so much a conservation at population level thing. That's more a welfare issue for the individual animal. And it's something that, over the years we've kind of skirted around a little bit, but it wasn't a core area for the group, because we were, as a conservation group, once you use the word conservation, you're thinking, health of populations, and you're not necessarily looking at the health of individual animals. But there's a bit of a grey line there. If you've got a rare species of whale or dolphin, and you've got even one of them is alive on a beach, or what happens if you've got 20 or 30 of them alive on a beach? Well, then that is potentially a conservation issue. So it is important, and it's just one example of new areas that the Irish Whale and Dolphin Group is getting involved in. So I used to always say that we were two sides of a coin: the sightings, and then you flick the coin and you get strandings. And now we're becoming more like a three-legged bar stool. So you've got the sightings, the live strandings, and the dead strandings, and that in the core is what the Irish Whale and Dolphin Group does.
What are the community engagement initiatives like? I'm sure you do like a lot of like an outreach and engagement with community. So I'd like to hear about that, and how people who would like to get involved, what they can do.
The easy answer to that question, Tommy, is how can people get involved? They can always join. Become a member. Now, you don't have to join to be you can just subscribe to our e-zine and you get a monthly e-zine. In fact, the next thing I need to do after talking to you is to write my piece of the monthly e-zine. So there are lots of levels. I mean, you cannot be involved at all. You can just be a subscriber to our e-zine, or you can put your hands in your pocket and you can give us 20 or 30 euros, whatever it is, and become a member. I just got my members magazine in the post this morning. So I'm actually also a paid member. Just because you're an officer of the group, I still have to pay my 35 euros membership. So that's the sort of thing we do for members. We send out, or we try to send out, 2 full-color Flukes magazines to our members. We also offer, I've just put live this morning on Eventbrite, 2 workshops that we have this summer in Seacast and Lepp. And these are sightings workshops where we introduce people to the concept of whale watching, where we talk about biology and ecology of whales and dolphins, how to watch them. We bring them up to the headlands and we do some watches. We take them out in boats and they get to listen to my dulcet tones for 2 or 3 days. But we also have stranding workshops, like live stranding workshops. So my colleague Gemma, she needs to wait a little bit later in the year because of weather and swell and tides. But she will be delivering live stranding workshops with inflatable rescue pontoons and inflatable whales, demonstrating to people the craft of how to safely put an animal back into the water so that everybody isn't pulling it by the tail and dislocating their vertebrae. In March, we have Whale Tales, which is an event that we host every year or two. But this year, it's in Carlingford Lough, up in County Down. So this is a year we've decided that it's been quite a while since we've done anything in Northern Ireland, because we are an All-Ireland NGO. So this will be an opportunity for people to, if you're in the Dublin area, it's only an hour north of you, or if you're in the Belfast area, it's only 45, 50 minutes south of you. So we're hoping people will join us at Whale Tales, which is in, let me just get the dates. It's March the 7th to the 9th. So it's a weekend event, and we have our keynote speaker, Andrew Stevenson, who's flying in all the way from Bermuda to give a talk. Now, he did have business in London anyway, so he's tagging on a trip just in case you're worried about our air miles and our contribution to climate change. But yeah, so that's going to be a really good event. So we're hoping, if people in particular in the north of Ireland or in northeast would like to, learn more about the group and become involved, they can sign up for Whale Tales. And it's an opportunity for people who are like-minded to get together and shoot the breeze over a very casual. We like to keep these things quite informal. And Tommy, you're invited too. So if you want to come and join us.
Thank you so much. I definitely take you up on that. Pádraig, what changes do you see over the years? Like the group is, many years in, you're working for many years. Like, what are the biggest changes you can see? Are they related to climate change? Are they related to attitudes towards whales and dolphins in terms of, area that you're working on?
Well, there's no doubt that the level of awareness has been enormous. I mean, we still hear it today. People, no matter how many times there's a whale story, or no matter how many times, RTE News or social media have a whale story, you still hear it all the time. Jesus, I saw that piece in the news last night. I had no idea there were whales in Ireland. And you're going, wow, 35 years later, it is amazing, but we do hear that less and less. So I do think the message is getting home that Ireland, we are very fortunate. Irish inshore coastal waters are certainly one of the best places in the Northeast Atlantic to observe whales. Just even sitting out in the headland, I was talking to a girl yesterday who I bumped into in Killarney, and she was going back to Waterford, and en route she stopped off at Ballycotton, and she was watching fin whales and humpback whales blowing off Ballycotton. So, I mean, this is actually a great time of the year, especially along the south coast, to see whales, which surprises people. But, there has been a big increase in awareness. Obviously, in the 30 years, like if you were asking me now, say, about big whales like fin and humpback whales, 20 years ago, I'd be telling you very different things to what I'd be telling you now in terms of what times of the year do we see them, how long are they staying, where are they occurring. All of that has utterly changed. And I think, I can't say exactly how much of that is related to climate change and everything getting warmer in the ocean. I can't say how much of that is due to the fact that we're hammering, we continue, and the Irish government continues to allow big, wealthy fishermen with big, powerful boats. These are the biggest fishermen in Ireland, hammer stocks of forage fish that are so critical for the entire ecosystem of our coastal waters. So we're doing a really good job down here in West Cork of completely destroying that stock. And, we're seeing a response from the whales. The whales, about 10, 15 years ago, they started moving from West Cork. They started moving to Kerry. And now the very same whales, and we know this by the photo identification work we're doing, those very same whales are now moving up the places like the Mayo coast and the Donegal coast. Ultimately, if they keep tracking north, they'll just leave Ireland altogether. And we'll go back to the way we were in the 1960s and 1970s and 1980s when nobody ever saw whales in Ireland. So you know what? It's the goose that lays the golden egg. And if we decide just for short-term greed that we don't really give a damn about the marine environment, well, then we just need to keep doing exactly what we're doing now. And the government authorities just need to continue doing exactly what they're doing now, which to me looks like very, very little. They're great at putting out big consultations. They're great at getting thousands and thousands of people to write into those public consultations, where 99% of people replying to them are saying the exact same thing. This madness has got to stop. And yet, once again, the fishing industry, the big lobbyists for the fishing industry, they've got very, very deep pockets, and they can pay for senior counsel to find the tiniest little, weakness in it, and they'll exploit that weakness, and then it goes to a higher court and it's thrown out because of some absolute nonsense. And yet 99% of people, agree that, this ban on big boats feeding in our bays and our estuaries needs to come in. I actually doubt if it comes in the morning in West Cork, it's quite possible it's already too late for us, because there are some people who would say that those populations of fish, a little bit like our herring, like our sprat, that they're endemic to an area. And once they're gone, they're gone. Because, it's not like they can just repopulate. If they're endemic to an area, they can't. And if we take the likes of the herring here in the 1960s and 1970s that were hammered to the point where, the last shoal was fished out, in 30 years, they've never returned. And there's still, a ban on fishing for herring in what used to be an industry that employed hundreds of fishing boats. So you know what? You go for short-term greed, and then you stop thinking about the next generation that are coming through. And, we would love to see a thriving fishing industry. But the couple of big boats that are doing this, they're just going to keep hammering it, and they'll keep doing it probably until the very last sprat and the very last herring is gone. And that is when the very last whale will be gone, and the very last seabird, and the very last seal, and, and all of the fish species that we eat. So really, we really do need to look really seriously at not just sprat, but at the whole concept of forage fish, because these are at the very bottom of the food chain. And if things have got so bad now that the big Irish pelagic pear trawlers are fishing what's at the very bottom of the food chain, well, then you have to ask the question, what will they be fishing in 10 years gone? Will we be fishing for plankton? Because that's actually the way we're going. We'll be like the Chinese down in Antarctica. We'll be fishing for krill and fishing for plankton. And then what? No idea what they'd be fishing for after that, because there ain't nothing left. There's no net small enough to catch anything smaller than krill or plankton. But, that's where we're going, So really, I think the new government ministers that we saw rolling up, and I'm thinking of in particular the Minister for the Environment and the new Junior Minister for the Environment, and he's a good friend of ours, Chris O'Sullivan, West Cork TD, and he's really keen on this whole issue. So I am hoping that this new cohort of politicians coming in will take heed to the likes of these issues, Tommy, that you do such a good job of showcasing.
Thank you so much. And like we said many times on the podcast, the issue of big boats, which are not only like an environmental issue, but like you said, the local fishing communities are also heavily impacted by that. Pádraig, just to wrap this up, how would success look like for Irish Whale and Dolphin Group in 2025, 2026 and going forward?
Listen, there's a really easy answer to that. One is to finally bring in this ban on big pelagic pear trawlers. And you know what? I would say if that ban, which 99% of coastal Ireland want, if that ban was to come in, you know what? There'd be almost no need for fair seas and no need for marine protected areas, because that ban to us would encapsulate everything that is wrong with Irish coastal waters at the moment. But obviously you've got our offshore waters. So we want to see these MPAs in. The government really running out of time here. They were supposed to declare, 30% of Irish territorial waters as marine protected areas. And we haven't even seen the primary legislation that will enable that to happen. So I'm thinking, my God, when I heard about this 3 years ago, I thought, my God, the wheels of government in Ireland move really slowly. And it is absolutely inconceivable at this stage that 2 years after the whole Fair Seas concept kicked off, of which the Irish Whale and Dolphin Group is only one of about 6 or 7 partners. But, we really do need to see that legislation introduced so that the likes of the National Parks and Wildlife Service can start dedicating, resources to managing and monitoring these and making sure that they're not just paper parks, but to make sure that they are protected areas that have a certain amount of clout, So marine protected areas and getting these big, and people often think that this damage, the fishing damage, has been done by big, nasty overseas trawlers. It's not. We're doing all this ourselves. These are Irish-owned boats. So if you're listening out there, guys, and there's only a handful of you, but you do have very big, powerful boats, we do need to bring in that legislation. That to me is what success would look like in the next year or two.
Ladies and gentlemen, Irish Whales and Dolphin Group, thank you very much, Pádraig.
Thanks, Tommy.
All right, folks, and another Irish charity, and the one that is very close to my heart, Irish Wildlife Trust. Kieran, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tommy. Happy to be here.
Excellent. Listen, tell us everything that we need to know about Irish Wildlife Trust. What is the history, what you do at the moment, and, everything that people need to know about Irish Wildlife Trust.
Sure, yeah. Well, we do have a bit of history. We're one of the, probably one of the longer established nature charities in Ireland. So I'll start with that. We're a non-government organisation and charity. We're all about protecting nature protecting and restoring nature in Ireland. But yeah, we've been around a while. We were founded in 1979. So we've been active for over 40 years. And even though, we're not the biggest charity going, but we've certainly been around for a while and working hard for nature at that time. So we got started back in 79 and a few sort of early things where we would have got David Attenborough over to sort of do a talk in Ireland. And then we were all about, back then we were very focused on, engaging people with sort of the more scientific side of nature and like promoting sort of recording nature and the sort of natural history science side. But then we did get more into what we're probably more known for now, which is the, being a voice for nature and lobbying and running campaigns. Like in 1981, we would have run a campaign to try and get Ireland to join the International Whaling Commission, because we were, for whatever reason, the then leader was not, Charlie High was not really signing yet. So we ran a campaign where we sort of put a bit of pressure on to join the International Whaling Commission, and sort of, I think our four founding sort of members brought a big float of a whale down St. O'Connell Street and brought a lot of attention to it and did a great job. And so we did, Ireland did sign up to ban whaling in our waters and signed up to the commission. So that's kind of like an early story of a first taste of campaigning. And we've kept going from there, just with the mixture of campaigning for nature, but also raising awareness about Irish species and habitats. So nowadays, our vision is an Ireland where wild nature thrives and society enjoys the benefits of coexisting with diverse functioning ecosystems. So that's it in a nutshell. That's what we're looking to get towards. And we do that through a few different ways, mostly through education around nature, sort of connecting people with nature, getting people out into nature, learning about it. And then through the advocacy side, which would be the same sort of things I mentioned, like lobbying politicians, running campaigns, submitting to public consultations. We're sort of trying to drive the agenda to restore and protect nature that way. And then we have a few sites, nature reserves, which is probably something we're going to build more over the next few years of actually doing a bit of that kind of rewilding work ourselves, in the hope that it will, inspire other organizations, other people. So that's us at the moment. Yeah.
Overall, how would you describe nature in Ireland? In what shape is the nature in Ireland, and what are the biggest challenges? What are the biggest, challenges that you try to address, or maybe that the nature is facing in Ireland?
Well, I suppose nature in Ireland is not in great nick, would be, I suppose, the quickest way of saying it. But it's not too late. There is still plenty of beautiful species and habitats out there in Ireland, but it's been depleted a lot. So this is something that maybe a lot of people aren't aware of, because Ireland's got a reputation for being green, and it is very beautiful and does have some lovely wild spaces. But essentially, nature in Ireland is in a state of being really quite depleted over the years. Probably, going back quite a long way to when we were initially started farming here thousands of years ago, and then other stuff like the extractive practices of the British Empire, and then right up to today, when the way we farm, the way we do our forestry, the way we do our fishing is still actually putting a huge amount of pressure on nature in Ireland. So unfortunately, nature in Ireland is not in great nick and under a lot of pressure, but it's still there. It's not too late to try and restore it and protect it. You asked about the main pressures. There's lots of pressures. I suppose at sea, and we do campaign and work with sort of marine issues at sea. So overfishing, so very, very industrial levels of fishing would be a big one that you could point at pretty quickly. But there are lots of other pressures as well in the ocean. Sort of the development of infrastructure for transport, ports and things, and also then coming down the line potentially wind power as well. All these things will be putting different pressures on the ocean. And then on land, I suppose one of the big two that you'd look at quite quickly would be the way we do forestry and the way we do agriculture. Both, not particularly nature friendly. overall. There are great examples of nature-friendly farming in Ireland. Some examples, not many, of nature-friendly forestry. So yeah, they'd be some pressures on land. Yeah, so a lot going on, but there's solutions to all of this. You know, there's ways of making farming more nature-friendly. There's ways of making forestry more nature-friendly, and there's ways of managing our sea better. So we at the Irish Wildlife Trust, we feel our role is to just bring awareness to these solutions, and then, you know, sort of shout for them, really.
And obviously, anyone who's listening to this and the state of nature and future of nature in Ireland is dear to their heart, they can join Irish Wildlife Trust. Please tell us, what are the best way how to join Irish Wildlife Trust, and then what you folks offer for members. I know that you're issuing a magazine, and there are many webinars and other things. So if you could just lay it out to our listeners and viewers what they can expect if they join, like how they're going to contribute to Irish nature.
Yeah, so we went in heavy there on the old the threats to nature and the pressures, but it's good to certainly just speak to that straight away, because that's very, very important. Our membership would, it involves some more fun stuff. So yeah, anyone can join. We're pretty much like a standard charity in the sense that you can pop onto our website, IWT.ie, and become a member. And it's, there's various rates. There's concession, family, and standard. We also have a junior membership for kids. So, and all members will get our magazine, which we produce quarterly. So for the kids, we have a nice sort of junior supplement, which is colourful, fold out, kind of simple little supplement that the junior members get quarterly, which teaches kids about nature, different habitats and species. And then for everybody else, you'll get the main magazine, which is, it's a full colour, beautiful magazine where we talk about what's going on with nature in Ireland. It pretty much covers those two themes that I might have mentioned at the start, which is firstly connecting people to nature. So information about nature, sort of looking at different species or different places where nature can be found, different habitats, plus that side of like promoting people to take action. So we want to sort of inspire hope through action. So the magazine also features, some different projects that are happening, not just by us, but by other groups as well. So you can find out about things happening in Ireland to protect nature. So yeah, so when you become a member, it's easy enough. On the old website, become a member, and you'll get that beautiful quarterly magazine. And then you'll be invited to our events. Now, thanks to the work of our local volunteer branches, we have events, certainly not in every county, but a nice spread of events around Ireland. So places like Dublin, Waterford, Kerry, Limerick, or Monaghan, they're all fairly active at the moment in terms of our local volunteers who run events. And the events are generally fun, kind of getting people out into nature, learning about nature, learning maybe sometimes about particular citizen science things, or how to identify dragonflies or wildflowers, or sometimes it's sort of just a nice walk in the woods or a bat walk. So the events are there as well for members to come to throughout the year. So they'd be the two main things, is the magazine and the events, and then the knowledge that you're, supporting our work, the advocacy work and the engagement work.
Tell us a little bit more about those local chapters of Irish Wildlife Trust.
Sure. We've had branches for quite a while. They are, well, first of all, they're voluntary run, which is fantastic. People are giving quite large amounts of their time to run these local branches. It's not like the British Wildlife Trusts, where they're independent, somewhat independent kind of agencies of their own, or their own organizations in a federation. There is Irish Wildlife Trust is a national organization, and the branches are members of the trust, and they're sort of running activities in their own area, and doing a great job of it, and they have a good bit of autonomy to decide what's their projects to work on, and obviously decide what they want to do in terms of events and things. So yeah, completely voluntary run, and the organization, its central organization, sort of would support them with communications, and obviously the things you need to run an event, insurance and all that. So it works quite well, which is good. So for example, we have a branch in Limerick that does they're doing a lot about dragonflies and damselflies at the moment, because there's some passionate people there who love those creatures, and they've formed a small group that they're surveying and monitoring dragonflies and damselflies and other insects. And they do run like big open events a couple of times a year for people to come to, with the family and just learn about nature. Our Dublin branch run an event every single month, and they're always free and family friendly. So sometimes they'll go to the coast to look at birds. Other times they'll go on a river walk. During the summer, we always do an event with them where we teach people about bumblebees and pollinators. So so the local branches are just great people who volunteer their time to run events and local projects as well. Yeah.
And I presume that those local branches, if anyone wants to join as a volunteer to the local branch, they also able to do so.
Yes. So when you join as a member, we ask you if you're interested in any of the local branches, and this is like a tick box thing. But then also their email addresses are on our website as well. So if you don't have to join first, you can actually just contact them through the emails on the website.
Oh, yeah. Excellent. Not long ago, I was talking on the podcast about the importance of citizen science. So I guess people who are just itching to do something and combine their passions into some citizen science, they can join the Irish Wildlife Trust or one of the local branches, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of work for them, and they're going to be welcome.
Yeah, citizen science is brilliant. The organization as a whole likes to promote citizen science. We would always promote people, engaging with existing citizen science surveys run by the likes of the National Biodiversity Data Centre, for example. So it's brilliant because it gets citizen science is kind of the two things together. You're connecting with nature. You have to spend time to do the citizen science outside, like looking at the bees or like looking at the plants. So you're spending time connected with nature, but you're producing information, data that can help the conservation effort as well. So for me, that's how I got started with the Wildlife Trust, was running citizen science projects. We did a newt survey and a lizard survey, which they're not active right now anymore, but that was how I got started. And so we're a big fan of that. So while we're not running like a big nationwide survey of any particular species right now, we're always sort of trying to help people do citizen science, maybe teaching them some skills and just sort of promoting getting involved with the biodiversity data centers. So yeah, you're right. Citizen science is a great one. Yeah,
absolutely, and this is a great way for people to engage with it. Listen, Kieran, are you running any projects at the moment, in the big initiatives that are underway?
We are launching our 2030 strategy, which is, pretty much just reaffirming that we're committing to keeping doing what we said we've always done, which is building those kind of communities of people engaged with nature. So our subscribed members, but also like our newsletter followers and generally people who follow us. So we're continuing building the communities. We're continuing advocacy for nature, and as we're gonna put a bit more sort of resources into that rewilding side of things. So projects at the moment, like with the advocacy, we spent a load of time last few years trying to get the nature restoration law over the line, which it now is. So what we'll be doing there now is trying to engage with the government, because they're now creating the nature restoration plan. And for folks who maybe haven't been following this, it's a new piece of European law that basically requires member states to try and reach certain targets to restore really important habitats in their country, where things like natural woodlands, native woodlands, pollinators as well get their own kind of targets, and marine habitats. So we think it's a pretty good idea, this law. And now, because it just passed with a lot of kind of effort and support from environmental NGOs, all the governments now need to produce a nature restoration plan. So that's going to happen in the next 2 years. So we're very much mobilized and trying to make sure that that's a good plan, that it's ambitious, it's realistic, and has a lot of public engagement in it as well. So with advocacy, that's something we're really on at the moment. So if you're on our mailing lists or whatever, you'll probably be getting updates, and maybe we'll let you know any opportunities to engage with that process. Other things we're really shouting for is marine protected areas. We've been proud members of a campaign called Fair Seas for the last 3.5, maybe 4 years. And And Fair Seas is really just like, it's a coalition of other environmental NGOs. So Irish Wildlife Trust, Irish Whale and Dolphin Group, Birdwatch Ireland, Streamscapes, loads of different groups. And it's supported by the Irish Environmental Network and Swan Ireland. So we're all just kind of shouting together for marine protected areas. And we're not going to stop that anytime soon. So yeah, that's another one that we're really working on at the moment, is trying to get the government to take action to produce, like, to designate more marine protected areas. And one way we're calling on that is new legislation to be published and brought into force that allows for designating more marine protected areas, but in a really good way, with a lot more public consultation than what had happened before, and like a really good sort of ecologically coherent network of MPAs is what we're looking for. So that's exciting, because we know marine protected areas work and they can help marine ecosystems, fish communities, etc., like bounce back when they're done right. So, and Ireland is an island nation. You know, we've got this beautiful sea surrounding us, the Atlantic Ocean and everything. So yeah, we're happy to be working on that right now. So that's probably some of the campaigns you'll see us shouting about over the next few months and years.
Very well.
Yeah, and then the new project of trying to do a bit more rewilding. So we own a few small nature reserves, and we'd like to acquire maybe 1 or 2 pieces of land where we can do some rewilding and, you know, showcase it, like let the public know about what's happening there, and just sort of get behind that rewilding effort. Because that goes back to our vision, which is like an Ireland where wild nature thrives, and there's so many benefits to people when that happens. Obviously benefits to nature itself. So that's exciting. We wouldn't call ourselves a leading rewilding organization right now. We're not doing huge amounts of it in practice, but we've always been advocates for it, and now we want to start doing a bit more ourselves. So there's a few things coming up.
Excellent. This is fantastic, because the nature restoration law, we covered nature restoration law from various angles on this podcast many times, so I'm sure the listeners are well aware of that. Marine protected areas also were covered in length, and rewilding, it's like one of the staple topics. So I'm sure that I'm sure the audience is very familiar with all of that, and that is just should make them want to join the Irish Wildlife Trust if they didn't already. Kieran, before we wrap this up, if you can wave the magic wand for nature in Ireland, what that would be?
Well, no pressure. I'm gonna try and think big, rather than focusing on any one ecosystem or pressure. Really, what it comes down to is that, unfortunately, there's a real lack of awareness has crept into humanity about the interconnectedness of everything, and the fact that human beings are part of nature. And we seem to have tricked ourselves. We've done this great trick on ourselves where we think that we're separate from it and we can go on with our own activities, our own economy, and it's got nothing to do with nature that's, you know, we're slowly killing off. So if you could wave the magic wand and make Irish people, everyone in the world, really just kind of appreciate the interconnectedness of humans with the rest of the natural world, I think that would probably just solve everything for us, Tommy. Yeah.
I think you're right. I never heard that answer, but I think you're right more than any other answer. Folks, the link to Irish Wildlife Trust website is in the description of the show, and go in there, subscribe to the newsletter. I'm subscribed to the newsletter. It is the best way to keep in touch. And Kieran, thank you so much.
Thanks, Tommy. Thanks a million. It's nice to chat with you.